everyone, this is Eugene Roddenberry.
Dr. Mohammed Noor.
Adam Nimoy, Leonard Nimoy's son.
This is Leonard Crowfoot.
This is Dr. Aaron McDonald, Star Trek Science Advisor and Lieutenant Commander McDonald on Star Trek Prodigy.
And you're listening to
Humanist Trek.
Humanist Trek.
You're listening to Humanist Trek.
the Humanist Trek podcast.
And you're listening to Humanist Trek, a fabulous, fabulous show.
Enjoy.
And don't worry, you can do your Temporal Mechanics 101 homework later.
It's a total stoner conversation where they've got the coil and then Riker's like, we can beam it over. And he's like, okay, that's great. And then will that do it? And then they're like, yeah, once it's installed. And they're like, and how do we do that?
Perhaps I could use this as an excuse to go to those far-off planets with little polka-dotted people if necessary, and be able to talk about love, war, nature, God, sex, all those things that go to make up the excitement of the human condition.
This is Captain Jean-Luc Picard. Welcome aboard. Jean-Luc Picard to the Starship Enterprise.
You want to review your rapid progress?
That nonsense is centuries behind us. To the Starship Enterprise.
Oh, yeah?
That is enough, damn it!
Tempo, mon capitan.
To the Starship Enterprise.
You can't deny that you're still a dangerous, savage child race.
Of the planet Earth.
You just don't get it, do you, Jean-Luc? That is the exploration that awaits you. Not mapping stars and studying nebula, but charting the unknown possibilities of existence.
Nuchnek. And welcome to Humanist Trek. It's a comedy Star Trek podcast about the humanism in Star Trek. I'm Sarah Ray.
And I'm like Ali Ashmead.
Are you sure, man?
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
Hey, I wanted to tell you, we've talked about a little bit of like the journey, the transition journey. As you know, I did a podcast back in 2015. Oh my God, it's almost been 10 years. Mm-hmm. I'm almost 10 years old.
Oh, Sarah,
double digits.
That's awesome.
So a big part of this journey is medical and like trying to find fucking doctors who know what they're doing and also take your insurance, and all of this stuff is a goddamn nightmare. When we were in Florida, I was in really good shape. I had a really good, like Disney provided great medical benefits, and every doctor around took it, and it was great. And I moved out here, and then I struggled a little bit to find a doctor who knows what they're doing. So I worked at the zoo for a hot minute. I was on their insurance, and then I went on Becca's insurance when I left the zoo, and their insurance is DC based. Mm-hmm. So like nobody's in network out here. Mm-hmm. And so then we thought, well, okay, let's try doing an Obamacare plan for a year. Mm-hmm. And nobody accepted that here. Nobody. And I would have thought like that would have been a requirement.
Me too. I'm very shocked.
Like if you're going to be a doctor, you have to accept the marketplace plans, but they did not. Mm. And so I finally found one, a doctor that it's not necessarily the doctor, like everyone in the facility. It's very like queer focused.
Nice.
So that was great until I got this new job. So I thought, well, it's they pay for it, so I'll go on the medical plan provided by my new employer, which is a Kaiser Permanente plan. I don't know how much you've heard about Kaiser, but I have not heard a single good thing about them.
Yeah.
Not afraid to lose that advertiser, but they not that anyone wants to advertise on this crazy ass show. They require you to like go to their facility. They have a Kaiser office where you have to go see their doctors and I can't get my for everything. Wow. I can't get my prescriptions at Target anymore. I have to go to the Kaiser office downtown and use their pharmacy.
Holy shit, it's like Apple. It's like Apple decided to start a physician network.
Yes, exactly.
Hey, you can only use our shit. No one else's.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And so now I've got like my prescription's due for renewal and it's sitting at Target and I can't pick it up. And so I could transfer it, but the prescription number probably changed. So I can't just like easily port it from one to the other. I'm going to have to go back to my doctor who doesn't take Kaiser. So now I got to find another doctor also. I got to go to their doctors. I'm going to start this whole thing all over again. And if
Right.
the last time this happened, I went to a doctor. I saw her. She did blood work, which is normal.
Mhm.
I do that annually. And then on the follow-up visit to review that blood work, she was like, well, I'm going to refer you to a specialist for your hormone replacement therapy. And I was like, that's fucking horseshit, because my primary care physician has been taking care of that this whole time. Like, that's a
Mhm.
primary care thing, not a specialist thing.
Right.
If you didn't want to see me as a patient or didn't feel comfortable treating my particular set of circumstances, you should have fucking said that in the first appointment. And then I could
Right.
have found another doctor and tried
But I
again.
bet you have to pay for that appointment.
Oh,
that
you're
you
damn
just,
right I did.
Just go to just for her to tell you, I'm going to send you somewhere else. I hate that.
Mhm. Yep. And so I was like, no, you're not referring me to a specialist. I'm going to go find another primary care physician who knows what the fuck they're doing. Anyway,
Right.
and that's when I found the one that I like. And so now I'm going to have to do that process all over again. And I'm not fucking looking forward to that. But I need my drugs, man.
Drugs are bad, okay?
Drugs are great.
They are.
Oh, so anyway.
Within reason. Of
I'm
course.
just trying to get my medicine, and it's this big fucking jump through these hoops. I got to fly my goddamn freighter that's falling apart.
Into the sun.
Into the sun, yes.
Not into the sun, but into the atmosphere of a planet.
Well, pass the joint, everybody. It's Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 1, Episode 22, Symbiosis.
Commander, you'll soon be getting an intruder alert.
What? I've got something, sir.
Intruder alert, sir.
It's an old-style starship, sir. Constellation class, heading this way under impulse comm.
Number one, kindly take charge of our guests until we have time to decide what we're going to do with them. Sir, number one, keep them out of my way.
The Enterprise is approaching a star in the Delos system, which is experiencing massive magnetic field changes, and they're here to study this at close range. So we're gonna like get up close, get up in it.
More interference, more clutter.
And Picard's making a shipwide announcement on the Tannoy that we're going to yellow alert. Expect issues with communications and other systems as we get closer into this. And they put this star on screen, and we talked about this last week. This seems like the cheapest visual effect they could buy. This black dot pops up in the corner. Why it wouldn't have just popped up in the middle of the screen? Okay, whatever. And then it looks like somebody like uses the arrow keys to move it to the center. Yeah.
Picard gave the order to block that shit because we can't see. Because basically, without the overimposing circle, sort of like an eclipse, the screen, everything was yellow and they couldn't see. So they did that just so that they could visually look at the, what do you call those things that jump out from the
flares,
sun?
the solar flares?
Yeah, them things.
So they do this. They zoom in on some solar flares, and everyone is just completely awestruck seeing this.
Like, whoa, this is cool.
I have a question here, too, because Data says there's an unusual number of sunspots and eruptive prominences, and the magnetic field is extremely irregular. And this was the moment I thought, oh, shit, this affects electrical systems. Data is fucked. I'm surprised they didn't turn Data off this episode because of the electrical whatever. Or like, I'm surprised he didn't get, knocked out or something.
Yeah, he must have some sort of protection. I've seen him get like short-circuited in other episodes coming up, like, they shock the shit out of him or something.
We see the deflector shield light up around the ship as it's bombarded by X-rays. And then Wesley's console, he's in the back at a console, and it lights up. And Wesley's like, wow.
Everyone's console starts tingling. Basically, there's like little blue, like stuff happening on everyone's console.
In engineering, we see a technician try to increase power to the forward shields, and her console is glitching out. Technologically, everything on the ship seems to be okay, but Troy calls attention to the increasing tension among the crew. And Picard acknowledges this, but then just kind of moves on, which I thought was kind of douchey. Like, Make an all call, man.
But then Data's like, well, we're going to need to get closer in order to investigate, even though everybody's freaking the fuck out. I'm like, you're already right there.
So they're going to push forward, but Worf picks up a distress call, which is pretty staticky. But this is T-John, a longtime listener, first-time caller, and he's on a freighter in orbit of the fourth planet having some serious navigation problems. So they change course to go help. But we hear T-John begging for help as the freighter begins entering the atmosphere about to burn up. Somebody learned some new vis effects for this episode. So we got the little black dot being moved around, and now we get another weird view screen effect as this like crosshair circle sort of shape moves around as it locks in on the freighter. That's just really weird.
I don't think they use that again.
No.
That's maybe they're just trying shit out.
Right. That's the kind of thing you see on like Tasha's console, not on the main view screen.
Right. Because it looks like you're about to shoot something.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, they've determined there are 6 life forms aboard this old freighter, and they have only minutes before they lose orbit and burn up in the atmosphere. So they get on the phone again, but as we were warned in the cold open, communication in this episode is going to be shit.
Right.
So it's all staticky, and it's really hard to make what they're saying, but we finally get some sort of conversation. But this guy, T-John, seems like he's high as fuck. He can't describe what's going on. He's like, I don't know, man. Something's missing. Something doesn't work. The thrusters, I don't know.
We've lost something. I don't know what it's called. Man, it's bad, man. Don't know what to do, man. My first impression was, man, these kids are high.
Yeah.
These kids are stoners.
Data's going to try to connect to their computer and figure out what's going on. And they attempt to tractor the ship out of danger, but of course, the solar activity disrupts the tractor beam. So Data figures out that this freighter has a misaligned electromagnetic coil, which the Enterprise has spare parts for, but nobody on the freighter knows how to repair or install anything, and there's not enough time to beam an away team over to install it anyway, so they decide instead to beam the freighter crew to the D.
It's a total stoner conversation where they've got the coil, and then Riker's like, we can beam it over. And he's like, okay, that's great. And then will that do it? And then they're like, yeah, once it's installed. And they're like, and how do we do that? And I'm like, dude. And then the look on everyone's face is like, what the fuck is wrong with these people?
See, at this point, I was starting to get like not so much stoner, but stupid. Like, oh, these guys are idiots.
I was getting children, so not knowing anything about the episode, because that's why I kept saying stoner kids.
Yeah.
Because initially I thought these are just a bunch of underage kids, have no business being on a ship. They've somehow taken the ship, and that's what I thought this was about.
These guys, to me, seemed like pack-leds, and we haven't met them yet. But very much like,
guys.
Oh, we're kind of stupid and we don't know what we're doing. Yeah. But this whole time I'm thinking we're about to beam over another naked time. These guys are going to be infected with some bullshit and we don't have time to do all the, testing and whatever. We're just going to beam them over and they're going to be infected and we're fucked. But I was wrong too.
Yeah.
So Riker and Tasha run down to the transporter room and she's having trouble getting a lock because of the solar activity. So she tells the freighter crew to go to their own transporter room and she'll try to connect the two systems together. And T-John's like, whoa, I didn't know you could do that.
And then as they're chatting, she's like, get your ass over there. Hurry up. We're running out of time. And Tasha's like, I don't think they're going to make it. But Riker's like, I don't think they care.
Yeah.
They act like they don't care one way or the other. They had about 1 minute and 28 seconds before the freighter was going to just plunge into the atmosphere. So they're in the transporter room, they're in place. She tells them to activate their transporter on their side, and then she gives them the coordinates, which she has to repeat because they're like, did you say 286 or 862? They act like they've got all the time in the world.
Uh-huh. Which really surprises me because what they actually beam over is not themselves. It's this cargo. And so if you were so fucking worried about their cargo, wouldn't you be like a little more, oh shit, we got to get this done. Let's go. We're running out of time.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, what materializes on the pad isn't the freighter crew, it's the cargo, and the freighter is disintegrating.
Captain, we're beaming over a replacement coil.
That's great. And that'll fix us up.
Yes, once it's installed.
Right. And how do we do that?
And they're like, what the fuck? So Tasha beams the cargo into a hold, and Riker's like, hey, you fucking idiots, get on the transporter pad this time. No, fuck that. Tasha, just beam over anything alive.
But because they were in such a rush, she tried to get a lock on 6. She attempts and fails a couple of times that they don't fully materialize on the transporter. But she finally gets a lock on someone just as the freighter is going down. And there's only 4 people.
Oops, lost a couple.
Oops.
So here we have Captain T-John, who should look very familiar
Oh
to
my
Star
gosh.
Trek fans. This is Merritt Buttrick, who also played David Marcus in Star Treks 2 and 3.
Mm-hmm.
Sobe, played by Judson Scott, who was also in Star Trek 2, but uncredited. We'll see him again in Star Trek Voyager. Romas, played by Richard Linebeck, who comes back in both Star Trek Deep Space Nine and Enterprise. And finally, Kimberly Farr as Langor, who didn't have a ton of acting credits, but she was a series regular in the 1989 Live-In, which I didn't watch, but she also comes from Broadway.
Oh, gotcha.
Riker apologizes for not being able to save them all, but they seem way more concerned about this cargo than their shipmates. In fact, they're like, can we go see it? Can we go to the cargo bay and see our cargo? We got to make sure it's okay.
And even when he says, hey, you act like this is more important than your friends that died, and then they still didn't say shit, let me see the cargo.
So down to the cargo bay we go, and there they are very relieved to see their cargo intact. But this turns quickly into an argument over whose property this is. Apparently, T-John and Romas were trading Sobe and Langor for these containers of Felicium, whatever that is. But the goods they intended to trade were destroyed with the freighter. And this argument escalates into an energy fight because...
ding, ding, ding! Energy fight!
Because apparently these people all have some natural ability to put their hand on someone and zap them with energy.
But can we go back just for a second and talk about the appearance of Sobe and Langor versus T-John and Romas?
Yes.
So T-John and Romas seem like, I won't say dirty, but they're just unkempt. They got the shakes. They're unstable physically.
They're kind of dressed poorly too. They're wearing like overalls or whatever. Like they look like they're
working people. Working.
Yes.
And then you have Sobe and Langor, who are well dressed, well poised, and not as desperate. They don't have a desperation about them that T-John and Romas have.
Riker calls for security, and Tasha hits them with a heater blast, and that ends the energy fight. And security escorts them to the observation lounge. Riker and Tasha have a hallway walk and talk about this unique power these people have. Maybe it evolved because of their unique sun. And Tasha thinks this could be a threat. How do we defend against this kind of superpower if they were going to use it against us? In the observation lounge, there's a short conversation about how T-John is going to pay for these goods since everything they own burned up in the freighter. And then we're back on the bridge as Riker and Tasha arrive to update Picard. And Data cracks open the Encyclopedia Britannica and reports that the only recorded contact with the Delos system was over 200 years ago when a scout ship reported 2 inhabited planets, one on the verge of acquiring space travel.
But I guess in 200 years, they didn't really get much further than that.
Not by the looks of it.
Yeah.
Troy reminds us that these people seem not at all affected by the death of the 2 other passengers, but extremely anxious about their cargo. Did nobody scan the cargo to figure out what the fuck it is? Why isn't someone down there with a tricorder figuring out what's in those containers? We just beamed it aboard like, no big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could be explosives for all we know. I mean, they're in these long canisters that very phallic looking, but they could be it's like Broken Arrow. It could be they could be nukes.
A warhead.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Yeah, they could be bombs, but hey, let's beam it aboard. Or I don't know if Tasha had a choice. They just fucking put it in there and in the transporter to beam it.
So Picard leaves Geordi in charge again. Love that. And Picard, Riker, and Data go to the observation lounge to chat with the freighter crew. Riker introduces the guests, and here we learn that they're from 2 different planets. Sobi and Langor from the planet Brekka, and Tijan and Romus from Ornara. And the Breckans seem to be maybe of a higher class than the Ornara. We were talking about the way they're dressed and kind of how they look. The Ornara come off as kind of working class, but also really, really stupid. Again, they don't know anything about fixing their freighters, and they only have 2 left as it is. So Picard agrees to help repair them.
They all need magnetic coils or something. So that was nice. But now they want to talk about the cargo. And Sobi and Langor are like, it's our cargo. No, it's ours. No, it's ours. Picard says, you guys need to settle this in whatever legal structure you've got because I'm not getting involved. But Tijan says it's a matter of life and death for them. It's medicine.
Desperately needed medicine for a plague on Ornara. But the Breckans insist that its production is expensive. We can't just give it away.
Oh, no. Yeah.
Why doesn't the Enterprise just try to replicate some? Maybe that's the thing we could do. It's medicine, give it to Dr. Crusher and let her try to figure it out.
I got all kinds of questions.
I know.
That's a good,
too.
yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, more bad news because every Ornaran carries this plague, including the 2 sitting right here. So Picard calls for Dr. Crusher to the observation lounge. This is a medical emergency. They did bring over a naked now.
Picard's like, oh, wait, you've all got something? Hey, guys, did you happen to turn on the medical filter?
Right?
when you pulled them over and Riker's like, we don't know.
there was no time. We
were in a rush.
Yeah.
Now, as for our cargo.
Our cargo, Captain.
Wrong, Sobi.
Behave yourselves, gentlemen.
As this episode goes on, the Ornaran's sickness becomes more pronounced. They've got Romus on a bed in sickbay, and he's definitely worse than before. They've got like the shakes, and they're just, this is not a good situation. Just as Picard comes in, the Breckans ask to leave, and Crusher is telling security to escort them to quarters. Langor's like, Captain, could we speak in private? And Crusher's like, get out of sickbay. I got a patient on the bed, a work to do. Get out. So Crusher and Picard go into her office. And here we learn that she can't find a disease. There's no cause for these symptoms that the Ornarans are having. It's possible that the biofilters on the transporter filtered them out, but with all the solar chaos, we can't really be sure. But she does seem fairly certain that these people are not going to die.
She also doesn't know if they're in danger from catching it either, so she still needs more time. And Picard does acknowledge that there's just stuff that doesn't make sense. And Crusher says something, and I highlighted this. She's like, what's missing here is a little compassion.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No shit. From everyone, in my opinion. But no one seems to care that the 2 people died.
Yep.
And then Sobi and Langor, they're just trying to get theirs for the medicine, but knowing that an entire planet depends on the medicine that they have.
Back out in sickbay, Tijan and Romus beg Picard to release the cargo to them. Of course, Picard can't just give it to them because the ownership is still in dispute, but he does agree to talk to the Breckians on their behalf. In the Breckians' quarters, they're enjoying some freshly squeezed orange juice.
I know. And then she got her ass laying across like she's on vacation, laying across the sofa I'm like, these 2, I hate them.
Picard drops by, and I was really surprised at how quickly they agree to providing 2 doses for T-John and Romus to take.
Well, you know, that's how drug dealers are.
Well,
they
we don't know they drug dealers yet.
oh yeah, just a little taste, and then I'll let you sample.
Yeah,
you know.
and you'll be back for more.
Mm-hmm.
They also ask to be present when the cargo containers are opened. In the cargo bay, Data has entered the chat now, and we get another fun Data moment as they're talking about the dosage size and how they've perfected their distillation process over the years.
Okay, so they open the container. It's this long metal tube that looks like one of those helium gas tanks, first of all.
Yep.
So they unscrew the top. It looks like some sort of like car part, like a carburetor.
Yep.
Does it not?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, and then they take that off, and underneath that are lentils. You know what that's lentils.
Uh-huh. Is it like for sure? For sure?
I don't know. I didn't read it anywhere, but I had to rewind it. I was like, that's lentils. First, I thought it was corn, and you don't want to hear me sing about corn.
It's corn.
But I'm like, no, that's lentils. Red lentils or yellow lentils. Actually, I think it was red lentils.
Searching.
The Felicium grains shown in the episode were actually red lentils.
Affirmative.
Yep, I know my beans.
Damn, you do. Well done. They explain that in the old days, the same amount of Felicium would have filled up 5 cargo bays. But now one of these small containers holds over 4 billion doses, and Data goes, well, I would estimate 4,365,000,000. He's ready to go like down to the bean, and Picard cuts him off. Data would win the how many jelly beans in the jar game every single time.
Hell yeah.
He's got an unfair advantage in that game. We also learn that the medicine lasts no more than 72 hours, and then the symptoms return. And Crusher remarks that she's been unable to isolate the disease. And they're quick to point out, like, yep, none of our doctors have been able to figure it out either, but that's why we decided to focus on treating the symptoms instead, you know.
Mm.
Data assumes they've applied technology from other industries to this product. But Sobi says they don't have any other industries. Yeah, so this is the unusual relationship between these two people. The Ornarans, desperate for the medicine, provides everything the Breckons need in exchange for this medicine. Already, this is like my spidey senses are tingling.
Mm-hmm.
The Breckons describe this relationship as, one might say, symbiotic.
Yeah.
But in reality, this relationship has a massive power imbalance.
Oh, yeah. One is the Ornarians are going to die if they don't get, or this, so they say. They can't function without that medicine. But the Breckons could probably figure out how to get food and stuff.
Right.
Without them.
Crusher takes the Felicium to sickbay, and T-John and Romus get right to injecting this stuff. They're like,
now hurry up. And if you've ever seen those movies, and this is when I realized what's going on too. If you've ever seen a movie, some of those movies of the people that are about to shoot up for heroin or something.
Yep.
And they are literally jonesing. That's what it looks like.
Yeah, they're definitely acting like junkies desperate for their next fix, more than sick people needing another dose of medicine. I mean, they've had the shakes, they're acting all nervous and twitchy, and all of that goes away as soon as that injection hits. And we get a slow push to Crusher, indicating that she's figuring this out now too.
Yeah.
In fact, she goes ripping into the ready room and lays this all out for Picard. Felicium is a narcotic, and the entire Ornaran civilization are drug addicts.
Boom.
Now, let's focus our discussion first on marijuana. Marijuana's bad, and it also has a very distinct smell, okay? I'm going to pass around just a little tiny bit, and I want you all to take a smell so you know when someone is smoking marijuana near you. Okay, just take a smell, pass it on, and when it gets back up to me, we'll finish talking about it. In the meantime, I want to get into alcohol a little, okay? Alcohol is bad.
On the bridge, all the pieces start coming together. Data and Wesley have been working at the aft stations, and we get to see those pull-out chairs again. I love that.
Data is another Google history lesson. several thousand years ago, both of the worlds took different paths. Ornara was the planet that became technologically sophisticated, but Brekka didn't. So even though they've got ships, they don't know how to fucking use them. They're more technologically advanced than the Brekkians.
Well, they were 200 years ago.
Yeah. And that's when the plague hit. And though somehow they found a sort of a cure with a plant indigenous to Breccia. And this plant, unfortunately, couldn't be grown on Ornara. So that's how this relationship developed, is Breccia had the plant as the cure, and Ornara didn't.
But Brekka provided the drug, but never told the Ornarans that they were cured because they became addicted to the Felicium, and that kept the Breckans in a position of power.
Jesus Christ. That is just cold.
Mm-hmm. Now the problem is, what the hell do we do with all this information? Crusher argues the drug addiction and exploitation should be enough to do something here, and her approach would be to synthesize a non-addictive substitute and gently take the Ornarans through withdrawal.
That's what I want.
Amen.
That's what I would have wanted.
Yep. But Picard argues for the Prime Directive.
The Prime Directive. How often have you broken it?
See, the Prime Directive has many different functions.
The Prime Directive?
It is more what you'd call guidelines than actual rules.
It's a very interesting proposition. Let me think of it.
Fuck off.
Picard,
Fuck off.
Picard's like,
Picard.
Beverly. Beverly.
Beverly.
We aren't out here to impose our humanist values on everyone.
Since when? Because, anyway.
So they get a call from Ornara and speak with a man named Margan, played by Kenneth Tagar, who was uncredited here, but we'll see him again in Star Trek Voyager.
Yep.
He wants to speak with his people, and at first Picard's like, yes, of course, Tasha, get them up here. But thank the continuum, he says. Wait, remembering my Charlie X training, that would be a bit of a safety issue. No, I'll go to their room instead. Thank you!
Was it, and I felt like, I don't know how I felt about this, because he's like, no, I don't want them on the bridge.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, wait a minute. Oh, because they're drug addicts? Are you discriminating? Because do you think that they're bad people?
Maybe.
Like, I had a problem with the way he said it and why he said it.
Mm-hmm. I will be interesting to see if that changes going forward.
Yeah.
Or do we just invite everybody on the bridge again? And this was just because of who they were. Yeah, that's a good point.
So off they go to the guest quarters to talk to this guy, Margan.
And that leaves Wesley to have an after-school special moment with Tasha and Data. Wesley asks Data, why would anyone voluntarily become dependent on drugs? And Data says, well, this is common in many cultures. And Tasha's like, marijuana's bad, okay?
Okay.
So this whole fucking war on drugs, just say no, drugs are bad, okay moment. They talk about escapism and how that's just fake and artificial. And before you know it, you're just jonesing for your next hit or whatever.
The thing is, Wesley asked the question, he doesn't understand how anyone would voluntarily become dependent.
Mm-hmm.
But these guys didn't even voluntarily become dependent.
Right.
They don't even fucking know. They don't even know that they've got an addiction. They think they're sick.
Yep.
So I can't.
And Tasha speaks to that.
Yeah.
Though not, again, more of this like just say no bullshit, not to the specific conditions of this episode, right? She was like, well, you know, Wesley, nobody wants to get hooked on drugs. Like at first, that you don't intend to get addicted.
Right.
I'm like, okay, but that doesn't address anything about the Ornarans at all. This is just an anti-drug campaign.
They wanted to, it was the late 80s, was Reagan. Reagan was president, and Nancy Reagan had that fucking war against
drugs. War on drugs, yeah. Did you have the D.A.R.E program when you were in school?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know if we're not that far apart in age, but I didn't know if that was a thing when you were there or not.
Yeah.
And for those of you who don't know what the D.A.R.E program was, this was part of the failed war on drugs, of course. We had fucking cops come into the school to give us the drugs are bad Mmmkay speech, and we had to like pledge to just say no or some bullshit. And looking back at, like, as a kid going through it, you don't think anything of it. It's just another, fucking, you go to the gym for an assembly. But looking back on it, it was super cringy.
Super. Now that I look back on it, yeah, it's super indoctrination.
Yeah.
And if you don't think any further than that, you form like an opinion about people who do drugs. You don't get the full story. You're just all you know. It's abstract. All you know is that people who do drugs are bad.
Okay.
They're criminals. They're this. They're that. They look a certain way, and they're not worth anything. And that's what it teaches you.
Well, and think about where I grew up, as I've mentioned many, many times. My little small town with corn, soybeans, and white people as far as the eye could see. You know who the druggies were, right? Black
people.
Yeah.
Right.
So what did that reinforce in us as kids of like what we thought of black people? Absolutely. Like we talk about all this shit that's going on now about how the cruelty is the point. That was part of the point too.
Yeah, it was to further demonize black people.
Absolutely.
They needed to find a way to keep us separated once again. And then I think in this, and I don't remember the timing, but remember when crack cocaine was a big deal? I just remember that was, only black people smoke crack.
Mm-hmm.
And man, was so not true.
Right?
But it was just only black people were getting caught and going to jail.
Of course. Right.
And yeah.
Right. Because we were looking for reasons to criminalize black existence.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
Anyway, Wesley's like, I guess I just don't understand. And Tasha says, I hope you never do. And Riker's like, Wesley, I just brought back this game from Risa. Wait till you try it. That's a call forward, friends. Stay tuned. In the Ornaran guest quarters, they've got the Google Meet call with Margan on the monitor. And he's like, hey, you got the stuff? And T-John's like, look, what happened was, Margan is like pleading, begging, like describing the suffering all over their world. Like, dude, we need this medicine real bad. You got to get the stuff.
T-John's like, we're doing everything we can. And then he tries to launch into his, what had happened was, and Morgan don't want to hear it. He's like, look, we need it.
Picard apologizes for not being able to just give them the drugs, and we get a cut to Beverly looking pissed off. But then T-John grabs Riker, puts his hand on his chest, and lights him up. And he tries to use this hostage situation to get his way, like give us the drugs or Riker dies. And for some reason, Picard doesn't believe he would actually kill Riker, which was a huge risk to take because people who are desperate will do desperate things.
They do stuff. And he's like, nah, no, you won't. You won't kill him. You're not a killer. And like, we don't negotiate with terrorists. And Picard's like, I won't be coerced.
So for some reason, this move works, and T-John releases Riker. And again, he begs for Picard to help, but Picard says, I'm not sure that I can.
Now, children, has that marijuana made it around yet? Who has the marijuana now? Okay, whoever has the marijuana, just pass it up to the front row, okay?
After the break, Riker's okay. His insides are still a little shaken up, though.
Sure, he's pissed his pants, but it's fine.
Yeah, right?
But Langor wants to talk to the captain in private. So they go to the Breckians' quarters to talk to Langor. And they've done some soul searching, and they decided that they're going to go ahead and give them the cargo because they don't want to be responsible for their suffering. But a light bulb goes off in Picard's head. He's like, oh, I see. You know. He's like, they know exactly what they're doing to these people. They know that they're keeping them addicted. They know that the Felicium is not a medicine. There's no plague, and they don't want to lose their only customer.
If they don't give up this batch of drugs, the Ornarans might detox naturally and realize they don't need it anymore. So best to keep them hooked, even if it costs us one shipment.
Mm-hmm.
Not only that, the Breckians were also once infected by the plague, but their ancestors knew that Felicium was a narcotic, knew that the plague was cured, and broke their own addiction, but never told the Ornarans.
That is some cold-ass gangsta shit.
Right? Picard says he thinks it's worse than even that. All of this advanced refining they've continued to improve over the years was all about increasing the potency and making it even harder for the Ornarans to get clean. And Sobi and Langor are like, yeah, so what are you going to do with that? You going to tell him? And Picard's like, well, you see, we have this pesky Prime Directive.
See, I could see in another episode where he would fucking tell them.
Mm-hmm.
But he says he's not going to because of the Prime Directive.
And Beverly fucking loses it.
I would too.
Mm-hmm. She's like, what the fuck, Jean-Luc? This isn't a symbiotic relationship. It's exploitation. But that's none of Starfleet's business. So we're arriving in orbit over Ornara, and back in the cargo bay, the Ornarans are checking out the spare parts for their freighters when Picard, Crusher, Sobi, and Langor arrive. And Picard explains that they'll be beaming down with their Felicium, but not because of anything Picard has done. Sobi and Langor graciously decided to let you have it.
And once again, the drug dealers are going to look like heroes. Like, because, oh, thank you for doing this for us, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. And T-John and Romus are like ecstatic to hear this news. Sobi asks if they can beam down with them and discuss the payment terms and such. And they're like excitedly welcome them to come for a visit. Of course, you're welcome on our planet anytime.
Oh, yeah. Well, pay us when you can. No big deal.
Mm-hmm.
We've heard that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then T-John and Romus thank Picard for his gift of the coils. Now they can get their freighters fixed and everything will go back to normal. But Picard has changed his mind. No coils. He tells them, you're going to have to learn to fix your ships yourself.
God damn it. I was pissed. And, oh.
Yep. So now both the Ornarans and the Breccians are pissed because their trade will be disrupted. And Picard's like, you see, that too would violate the Prime Directive.
I get it, but still.
Right? And the Breccians are mad because, like, hey, you got to keep the supply lines going. You got to keep this drug operation. And Picard's like, well, you didn't seem to have a problem with the Prime Directive when it fell in your favor.
Right.
Now that it's working against you, you got a problem. Okay.
Right. Because if their ships don't work, they can't go get it. And they can also can't provide them with anything. Because essentially, Ornarians could be pretty self-sufficient. They've got everything they need. They're just dependent.
Mm-hmm.
The Breccians are just trying to keep them down.
Yep.
Wow.
Crusher, like, suggests, because she can't say anything because of the Prime Directive, but she's like, you know, there are other options. You guys just have to trust yourselves. And they're beamed away, and Picard and Crusher have a much-needed conversation in the elevator on the way to the bridge, because I don't think any of us feel great about what just happened.
No.
Picard again argues that the Prime Directive is necessary and a correct philosophy, because history has proved over and over again that whenever mankind interferes with a less developed civilization, no matter how well-intentioned, the results are invariably disastrous. Haven't you seen Star Trek, the original series, Beverly?
But what Crusher says is that it seems, what he's doing seems really cruel.
Yeah.
And I 100% agree, especially when they could have helped them out medically and made the detox a lot easier on them.
This is another like widely known Trek trivia that I thought maybe Becca was going to ask us for this episode.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, Tasha Yar, spoiler alert, dies next week.
Mm-hmm.
But they filmed these in different order. So Skin of Evil was filmed before Symbiosis.
Mm-hmm.
This was her last day on set. So the Ornarans and the Breccians and their drugs beam away out of the cargo bay. Crusher is like pissed off.
Mm-hmm.
Picard and Crusher leave. Watch the background. There's Denise Crosby waving goodbye.
Oh, that's awesome.
Right?
Oh, that's so cool.
Right? So that was Denise Crosby saying goodbye. Yep.
Nice little Easter egg.
On the bridge, Picard's like, Geordi, I don't care where we go. Just get me the fuck away from here. So I guess we're not studying the sun anymore?
Yeah.
Remember that at the beginning of this episode?
Yeah, I forgot all the fuck all about that.
Geordi picks the Opraline system, and Riker's like, well, that's an interesting choice. Why there? And Geordi says, curiosity. We've never been there before. Off we go to the next adventure.
Let's see what else we can fuck up.
Boy, I'm sure glad that's over with.
I'll be glad to be relieved of this cargo.
Me too.
It is done, and perhaps just as well.
Yeah, but you know, I learned something today.
I sincerely hope that this is the last time that I find myself here.
You just don't get it, do you, Jean-Luc?
You see, of all the species, yours cannot abide stagnation. Change is at the heart of what you are.
That is the exploration that awaits you. Not mapping stars, studying nebula, but charting the unknown possibilities of existence.
Okay, so here's a great example of a system where people use whatever leverage they have to stay in a position of power.
Absolutely.
And sadly, that is a part of human nature that just isn't so great.
Yeah.
But it is something that is common to the human experience. And this made me think about fucking capitalism, our health care, in scare quotes, system.
Mm-hmm.
Think about the exploitation of various people as slaves throughout time,
Mhm.
exploitation of women, children working in dangerous mines at young ages. Like, humans are really good at clearing our consciences of terrible exploitations when it serves us.
Man, the Western countries taking advantage of these low-paying workers in other countries.
Yes.
That's exploitation to the max. That country needs those wages, and we need the products. So they make these products for $10. We pay them 3 cents an hour or some shit like that equivalent, because to them it's a lot of money. And then we get these products and we come over here and sell these things for like fucking $200. And then all that profit goes to who?
And it's especially easy for us when we don't see it. We don't see
Oh, yeah.
those children in foreign countries working in factories.
But we didn't used to know about it. There was not a whole lot of social media, but then there's been a lot of exposés made 20 some years ago to expose this. So we know about it now. We just choose not to acknowledge because
Yeah.
it doesn't affect us.
Yeah, we still buy that cheap shit by the boatloads
Right.
and mark it the hell up and convince ourselves that that's okay.
But the companies want to stay on top, and this is how they do it.
When I describe humanism to people, like for the first time, I think the first two words I always use are compassion and empathy.
Mhm.
And that really shows up here where Crusher was like the humanist of the episode. We give her a fucking award because the whole time
Yeah.
she's like pissed off that the Brekkians seem to care neither for the Ornarans, the people who died, like they just give zero fucks except for themselves. And of course, as the Doctor, her whole being is imbued with compassion and empathy for suffering people. So
Right.
she's pissed at Picard because she's like, I can solve this problem for them. I can make this suffering disappear, and you won't fucking let me.
Right. And I just found it when she made that statement about we could use a little compassion. Hell yeah.
A lot more
So could
compassion.
Picard's doing this tough love thing
Mhm.
that, like, I get it. Sometimes you do that to a child, but sometimes, like, he's broken the Prime Directive many times.
Plenty of times.
I feel like this could have come up with a solution to get these people out from under this manipulation.
Yeah.
But he chose to take back. First of all, if you do promise someone help
Yeah.
and it's sitting right there, then you take it back. How is
Mhm.
that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, by the way, we changed our minds. We're not giving you the coils. We're going to do this tough love. But what if they don't? What if they don't fix it? What if they don't learn to fix it and their whole society just tanks because Picard wouldn't help? No compassion at all.
Well, that point gets relitigated 17 years from now when the USS Cerritos visits this planet.
Mm.
Stay with us, kids. We'll get to that at some point. That's a long fucking way
man.
away. But there is a follow-up to this episode. So
Nice.
stay tuned.
Oh, I haven't watched it.
Okay, cool. And then beyond the just say no anti-drug bullshit overlay,
Mm-hmm.
this is a great Star Trek because it presents a situation that's not cut and dry. There's a lot of gray areas, and I think we're meant to come away feeling very unsatisfied by the solution here. Like, did we do the right thing? Would spilling this tea help the Ornarans detox necessarily have led to disastrous results, as Picard suggests? Like, yes, there would be some kind of consequence to interfering with this relationship or whatever. Like, the disruption of the nature of the relationship between these two people, maybe it sends them into a war of vengeance. Maybe the Ornarans are like, fuck you for fucking us over all these 200 years. We're going to blow you out of the fucking universe. Who knows?
We're going to develop weapons and we're going to fucking make you pay back. And then we're going to take over your planet, you know?
Or maybe the Breckians apologize and like work to change their ways and make amends and help improve the condition of life for both of their peoples. Like, I don't think invariably disastrous results are guaranteed outcomes.
No. Yeah, I agree.
I think there was a risk involved that they could have helped them and it could have been a positive outcome.
Right. And what's to say that just contact with the Enterprise hasn't already changed something?
Right.
So, like, if you're already in it, then fucking go all in. Help these people. Have some compassion.
Yeah.
Also, just I don't like how we look down on drug addicts.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people who are addicted, they need the compassion. Nobody wants to be addicted. Like, everybody wants to escape.
Mm-hmm.
But then these chemicals that we have created have a unexpected side effect, and it's that it makes us want more.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that we are bad people or less than or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think about, I mean, this is one that we historically try to downplay the addictiveness of. I smoked cigarettes for far too long.
Oh, and you know why though, right?
It's an addictive substance.
But the government was making money.
Oh, of course.
Because the government eventually, so I grew up working in tobacco fields in Virginia back before everyone had their own farm and they made the profit. But then Big Tobacco took over and bought up these farms and said, I want to make money. But it's okay. Just like with alcohol, there's money to be made. And sure, we'll slap a warning on it and say, hey, this isn't good for you. Kind of half-hearted. This is going to cause cancer, but we're still going to make money out of it.
Absolutely.
We've done our due diligence here by these cigarettes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And once we've, determined that there are addictive properties in particularly the nicotine, do we make an effort to extract the addictive property from the product? Absolutely not. No, because we want to keep you addicted, so you keep buying more cigarettes, so we keep making more money.
And guess what they've done now, though, is now you can vape and you get all these cool flavors. So you still get the nicotine, and we've made it taste even better. And they are the Breckians.
Yes. Yeah.
They're the fucking Breckians.
Yeah. Now, the other side of that coin, as we see ourselves in the Ornarans, is like, life is fucking hard, man. And sometimes you just want to disassociate and unplug and stop thinking about the terrible existence that's happening and just fucking turn your brain off for a while. And I say, that's okay.
I do too.
That is a natural inclination that we want to be able to feel good for a little while. And yes, Tasha, that turns from trying to feel good for a little while to trying not to feel bad or whatever. However she said that, I don't know what she said. But like, maybe if the real war on drugs should be making our society a place where you don't feel like you need to get high and get away.
Yeah.
Then we wouldn't want them. Then we wouldn't need them. And maybe we would. Who fucking cares though? But like the reason we get high and do this show every week
because it's fun.
It's 'cause
I
it's
do it because
fun.
it's fucking fun.
Yep.
Like people do stuff to escape. Like people go to the gym.
Yep.
They take a walk. They get into other things. Like everything can be a drug to escape, not just
Not just chemical substances.
right, not just cannabis. Some people drink. Some people have hobbies. Some people like there's all kinds of stuff. And well, cannabis is not technically addictive,
Right.
other than it's not physically addictive, but
Mhm.
it could be habit forming.
Right.
But so there's all kinds of things that people use to escape.
Mhm.
But if life wasn't so shit sometimes, we wouldn't need to,
Yeah.
like you said.
Yep. Well, I think the final ruling on this episode is that drugs are good. Okay.
Okay.
Drugs are good. People are good. Drugs can be bad.
People can be bad.
People can be bad. And drugs can be bad, but drugs can be good, and people can be good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does that's too
All right, let's roll out the memorial service
Oh boy.
and put some nails in some coffins. Who died in this episode?
Well, we know there were 6 people on that ship, but we never saw them. We don't even know their names.
Yeah, we don't know which were they Breckians, were they Ornarans, were they one of each?
We don't know.
We don't know.
I think I assumed they were Ornarians, but I really don't know. Neither way, nobody gave a shit.
Nope.
So yeah, I wrote a rhyme about them. You want to hear it?
Yes.
We're here together to honor our friend and comrade. We will all find time to grieve for her in the days that are ahead. But for now, she has asked that we celebrate her life with this.
Floating in a freighter that was looking straight hopeless. The Ornards were victims of symbiosis. They couldn't fix the ship. It was doing their head in. They chose space math over saving their brethren. Langer and Sobe, straight hustling gangsters. They made a profit when Ornarians were tanked up. They all got a lesson in the Prime Directive. Picard pieced out so he wouldn't affect them. Lame, man. Word to your mother.
I love it.
We can handle all the pleasantries later. Now, let's get down to business.
I am willing to pay handsomely for you.
I think you've had a little too much to drink.
Now, what do you know about my money?
Your money?
The money he stole!
You stole his money?
Those vouchers I gave you were every bit as good as Latinum.
You can spend Latinum almost anywhere. Those vouchers are only good at your bar.
We want to thank everyone who supports the show on Patreon. We especially want to thank our founding admirals. A special thanks to Russell, Allie, Peter, Sarah, Sherry, and Bruce. Thank you, patrons.
Thanks, guys.
Captain, Starfleet Academy is requesting an update on our estimated arrival.
Finalists, please take your seats.
I must admit you have a very fast mind.
Once I realized it was a trick question, there was only one answer.
Although only one student will be chosen for the Academy, any of you could easily qualify. Candidates, good luck.
You got called to the superintendent's office. It's a story I'd like to hear.
Beck is back now with the answer to this week's Starfleet Academy Cadet Challenge for Symbiosis. Remind us the question.
This episode shows the only conversation to ever happen in the series between which 2 regular cast members?
We said Tasha and Wesley, and the answer is?
Tasha and Wesley.
Affirmative.
That's crazy. That's the only conversation.
Right? Drugs are bad, okay? Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, children. Okay.
Next time, we'll be reviewing Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 1, Episode 23, Skin of Evil. A rescue mission turns to tragedy when one of the Enterprise officers is killed by an evil alien. Rest in peace, Tasha.
Yeah.
Yep, I remember this one. This is Artemis, the big black blobby alien
Oil
thing.
slick.
Yeah,
He's like a big oil slick. I don't know how else to describe him.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he's just
this was-
lonely, man. It's like a Melvar oil blob. He's just lonely. Anyway, what's our question for Skin of Evil?
What concoction was used to create Artemis, the oil slick?
You gotta fucking be kidding me. Molasses and food coloring. I don't fucking know.
Cornstarch.
Oh, yeah, that's
and
probably it.
Black stuff. Food coloring. I don't know now. Gelatin. Okay, I'll say I don't know. I really don't know. I should have fucking read this.
I know.
I'll say some sort of gelatin. Would they use food coloring? I don't know because it was shiny.
Mm-hmm.
So
I don't know.
God dang it! How does she do this?
She's good at this. That's how. Those are our answers. If you'd like to take a shot into the dark blob with us, you know how to do that. Head to your social media, share this episode, use the hashtag Starfleet Challenge. We'll try to pick out a winner, and next time we'll review Star Trek The Next Generation Season 1, Episode 23, Skin of Evil.
Glory to your house.
Make it so, number one.
Humanist Trek is available wherever you replicate your podcasts. Follow us on all the social medias at Humanist Trek. Become a patron at patreon.com/Humanist Trek. Open hailing frequencies to podcast@humanisttrek.com and visit our website, humanisttrek.com. Humanist Trek is a production of Sarah Austin Media.